Hello everyone and welcome to part 2 of our workshop build. In the previous episode you saw us building a foundation and how we made it ready to get a concrete floor poured over it. Then we installed my new 2-post lift and we started with the build of the building itself. If you haven't checked out that video already, go take a look at it, and otherwise enjoy the next episode.
All my friends, yellow rider.
Before we start with the video, I quickly want to mention the company that supplied us with the build kit for the shop, because I got a lot of questions about it. The company is called Cornelis and their core business is designing and manufacturing wooden buildings, and they are located here in Belgium. If you want to find out more about them, I'm going to leave the link to their website in the description below so you can check them out. Now let's get on with the video. We ended the last episode with the install of the first set of beams. Our first objective for this episode is to complete the frame as displayed in this diagram. So we are strapping the next beam down to the skid steer and making it happen. The first beams of the day went pretty smoothly, but now we have to mount the big boy of the group. This solid oak beam is 7 meters long and it weighs about 300 kilograms, and it has to be mounted in the center of the ceiling. Therefore, we called in some reinforcements to help us get it into place. The plan is to raise it over the posts of the lift and then drive it into position as best as I can. Then everybody gets onto some scaffolding to slide it into the slots. With the hardest part of the build done, we finished off the complete frame that night. The next day, the glorious sight of the outlines of the shop motivated me to start building the floor of the second story. It was just a matter of picking up the right pieces of the puzzle and hammering them into their slots. With that ready, my brother and I started to build the frames that will make up the walls of the shop. We fix them temporarily so that we can still adjust their position before we mount the sidings. With the first set of wall frames done, the next step is to make the triangular frame that sits on top of it. First I'm puzzling everything together, and then with the frame laying on the ground, it gets screwed together. Then we built a temporary floor over the lift so that we could easily slide the frame into position.
Ja, oké. Wil je spoor? Voilà.
Then the frame got bolted down on the bottom, and on top we temporarily supported it so that it wouldn't fall over. It is very gratifying to get an idea of what the roof will look like, but it is far from done. So next my dad and I are mounting the king posts, principal rafters and the struts. The next step is to put on the ridge beam and the purlins.
Ja? Ja. Ja. Oké. Erin? Ja. Ja, oké.
Pretty soon the purlins were in position, so Thibaut and me started to install the rafters on top of them. The last step to finish the structure of the building is to make the frames of the rear walls, so I made those to finalize everything on the design plan.
Onder de lucht. Dus tegen u. Dus dat komt op een centimeter aan. Ja, oké.
The structure of the building is now fully complete. It is 3 weeks after we laid down the first wooden beam, so my dad and I are stoked that the build is progressing this fast. And that is mostly due to the quality of the build kit. A few days later we had a professional roofer come over. Together with his son he installed all the gutters and drain pipes, and they also installed a vapor barrier together with some battens and counter battens. While they were taking care of the roof, that freed up some time for my dad and I to start working on the sidings. The sidings are also made of oak wood. They have a tongue and a groove so that they slide nicely into each other. We agreed that to make things go as smoothly as possible, I was going to cut the sidings and that my dad is going to attach them to the frame. With the first section done, my dad is coating it with a wax oil to prevent blackening, and then we move on to the next sections. This is the result, but there still is a piece missing. We have this little window that still needs to be installed. So we drew out the outline, and then the oval shape can be cut out. After it got bolted in, it gets sealed with some transparent silicone. This is what the finished product looks like. In the future we might add some more windows to get more natural light into the shop, but for now we are going to focus on other things. The rear of the building got finished in a similar way and looks pretty neat. While we were doing the sidings, the roofers already laid down the first set of roof tiles. For the roof we are using the same roof tiles as the ones currently on the roof of the house. We made an agreement with the roofers that they would lay down the first part of the roof tiles and that my dad and I would finish the rest of them. While one of us was laying down the tiles, the other one had to make sure that our homemade trays were constantly stocked with tiles. And luckily, to bring the tiles onto the scaffolding, we could use the skid steer. We made good progress, and with the help of the roofers to do the back of the roof, it got finished pretty quickly. Now that we have a roof over our heads, Thibaut and me dressed up like crappy astronauts because we are going to insulate the walls with some rock wool. After a couple of hours of itchy labor, the walls got done. We still have to finish the insulation under the roof, but we have waited with that deliberately, because we still have to install a chimney for our new wood stove. We bought this thing for a great deal through Thibaut's family, and it is going to be a perfect heat source to warm the place up during the cold winter months. But obviously before we can use it, my dad and I need to install the chimney. We got this double-walled stovepipe that is going to be put through the roof. To roughly determine where it is going through the roof, we're first going to install it in its bracket. Then I punched out one of the tiles right above the pipe so that I could take away all the tiles around it. With all the tiles removed, I made a hole in the vapor barrier and cut through the battens to create an opening for the pipe. Then we installed the complete pipe onto the stove.
Okay,
This piece is going over the pipe and will lay down under the roof tiles to make sure no water can get under it. And with the end piece on top of the pipe, the chimney is done. Next on the list is building a door that leads to our garden. A few days ago I already made the door frame, and today my dad has fixed the oak wood planks on top of it. And with the hinges installed, we have a functioning door. We still have to work out what we are going to do with the handle and the lock, but that is something for later because it's getting colder outside and we want to focus on closing the entire building. And to do that we need to build the front gate, which will be no easy task. We need to build a gate that can close off this space of 6 meters wide. We want to keep the finish made of oak wood so that it fits together with the rest of the building nicely. Since making a 6 meter long sliding door is not going to be possible, we came up with a design for a foldable gate. We have an idea for a mechanism, but to try it out we are going to have to make the necessary panels first. We've got 6 panels that will be spread over 2 doors. The plan is to mount them in 2 rails, one on the bottom and one on top. So we are going to start with mounting those. While I was doing that, my dad was mounting our custom hinges to the panels so that tonight we can do our test to see if the concept will work. The bottom hinges will have a movable wheel under them that rides on the bottom rail. On top there is another wheel that runs in a rail and guides the gate. So to test our concept we have to install that rail on the building, and to do that I made these tiny brackets. With both the rails installed and the hinges mounted on the panels, we can finally see if our prototype works. By the looks of it, the concept is working excellently and we are confident that we can make this system work. But that is something you will have to find out in the next episode, as we are still working on the gate at the time that I'm posting this video. The next episode will contain how we are going to finish the walls on the inside, how we are going to make a workbench, and maybe even some stuff like lighting and electricity. Thank you for watching, and until next time.